What is up, YouTube? Back at it again with another update here, guys. Been a little inconsistent, and that is honestly my fault, but I plan on being much better about that and just being consistent with these. That's just first and foremost what's got to happen. I was getting really consistent with training videos, podcasts, all that good stuff. So it is definitely back in action, especially with the prep coming on. We've already started prep, so definitely got to keep the updates rolling, keep you guys informed on what is going on, where we're at, what we're doing, what shows we're doing, the approaches, the training, the diet, the cardio, all the fun stuff. So where we're at right now, we are 16 weeks out from the Elite Muscle Classic in Greensboro, North Carolina. This is the same show that I did last year for my second show that I won, the super heavyweight class, which I can't count that as a win. There was nobody else in that class, but I also got the overall win. So got the overall win in bodybuilding. Going to go back down there. Spent this last year improving. Had a really good off season, in my opinion. Got up to 300 pounds. And just being transparent, guys, super transparent. I got fucking scared, man. I'm not going to lie. Breathing was really hard. My training took a little bit of a hit. So I got up there, and it was a respectable 300 pounds, especially for it being the first time being at 300 pounds. But it was a lot. And to be honest, I had some health scares because the blood pressure got really high. So I've talked about that in the past, all that good stuff. Had to get all the fun testing, the in-depth testing. So had a pretty extensive cruise just to make sure everything was good to go. Everything was good. Got all the green lights from the doctors. Got blood pressure meds switched around. I'm sure I've already talked about that in the past on here, but all that has made for a world of difference in my bodybuilding journey. As far as sleep being way better. Being super consistent with using my CPAP machine now. That was the main driver for the blood pressure just being so high, was just the sleep apnea being too rough, to be honest, and causing elevated hematocrit, hemoglobin, and blood pressure, and elevated pulse. So since being very consistent with the CPAP machine now, the blood pressure meds, all that, man, my resting heart rate doesn't even go above 70 anymore. Like if it starts hitting 70, I know I'm probably pretty cooked from like training and stuff like that. I know there's a lot of people that would say basing your recovery on your resting heart rate, that's stupid and all that, but there is some merit to it. I've seen it firsthand. If you wear a fitness watch, when your recovery is cooked, you know your resting heart rate is significantly elevated. So anyone that wants to say any different, you're just a fucking idiot, in my opinion. So, but yeah, that's where we're at with that. And that's not, I don't base my day on training. If my resting heart rate is at a certain point, I'm not going to train. That's not how it is. But I do know if it's starting to creep up, hey, you're probably pretty smoked. You probably need to pull back a little bit, take a rest day, that kind of thing, especially if it is correlating with feeling all the symptoms of being cooked, sleep taking a hit, all these things, joints being a little bit beat up, over fatigued, not recovered in between sessions, that kind of thing, then yes, we will, give that some merit for sure. And, that's 9 times out of 10, that is when I see that. So not to go too much on a tangent on that whole thing, but since all that, kind of was nervous about my approach with, PEDs, getting back into it, tried a couple different little things, starting out at lower doses, just different combos of stuff together. And to be honest with you, the only thing that really felt good was test. I was just like this, I don't even notice that I'm, using this. Not to make this all about that, but so I just immediately scaled that up by itself and used an AI and just got the dosing, up to a respectable point, about 1 gram a test, left that alone, and then threw in Masteron with it just to have something else in there. And then just 2-3 days ago, layered in a little bit of EQ and a little bit of extra test probe as well on top of, the test E that we have layered in there with the mast. So the base of the cycle is pretty much test and mast. Majority tests, obviously. We're at like 1,200 tests, 700 mast. 300 EQ, and then 70 milligrams of tren right now, just to get the ball rolling here at the beginning phase of prep. I respond really well to tren. Sleep doesn't seem to be impaired from tren, things like that. So digestion, all that stuff is really good. Nutrient partitioning is like picking up, and just it seems like everything is just going right where it needs to now. So I've only been using that for about 2 weeks now. But like I said, everything is flawless with that, and it's at a super low dose, 10 mgs a day. Nothing crazy. Towards the end of prep, I'll probably, rely on that a little more. But at the beginning, I like to just throw it in, get, things cleaned up, get composition in a good spot, and then I'll pull it out, freshen up a bit, go through the remainder of the prep, do what I need to, probably throw it back in towards the back end of the prep, closer to the show, that kind of thing. Training is just, I push-pull legs right now. But with the caveat that before my quad days, there is biceps. Then biceps are also trained on pull day. Triceps are trained on push days. And then before the last pull day of the week, there is 2 bicep movements, 2 tricep movements, 3 sets each. So there's quite a bit of arm volume through the week, but my arms seem to recover super quickly. They seem to be able to handle it. So I've been kind of basing a lot of, what needs to be hit more simply based on that. Like, especially legs are a weaker body part for me. But my legs seem to recover really quickly. So there's some merit to that, where I feel like, hey, they're recovering that quick. They need to be hit that much more. Where my back will be, nuked pretty easily, with not very many sets. So that's where I can, pull volume down significantly. My chest, the same. I seem to be able to, as I progress, I seem to be able to connect with my chest a little bit better. But my chest can take the volume and recover from it. So I've kind of just left that as it is. Sometimes depending on where the food is and stuff and recovery budget, I might pull a set out here and there and just kind of auto-regulate that a bit, just based on feel week to week. But usually I try to keep that pretty set in stone, which everything is right now. But I've just really, the past probably 3 weeks, a month, 5 weeks, somewhere in there, have really just played around with what my body can recover from, and really messing around with, hey, let's push the volume up here, because these body parts seem to be fresh after the very next day. Sometimes, like for arms, for instance, I could hit arms and then the next day they might be a little sore, the next day they're totally fine. So it's like, hey, why not capitalize on that, and use that to my advantage right now, especially where that's something that I feel like I really needed to capitalize on and bring up and have be strong points. Being a taller guy, you need to have big arms, big legs, because you're a taller frame. So if you have those longer limbs and they're not big, they're going to look weak. But if they're long and they're massive, you're going to have a crazy X frame. So you really definitely want to have big arms, big legs, especially being a taller guy, because you have all that space to fill out, all that limb to literally volumize. So you need to do that. But that's where we're at with the training, and that seems to be going really well. Everything's clicking. I'm progressing, getting stronger each week. I've hit some crazy PRs in the past 2 weeks on some back movements like T-bar rows. Today I got 6 plates on the Body Masters T-bar row for 6. Then I got 5 plates for like 7 or 8, somewhere in there. And then 4 plates for 10, something like that. So getting really strong in some of these back movements, especially just, bringing back training back into everything, where I'm not just having it at total maintenance. I'm still, wanting to progress some movements within the back. And then as well as, let's see, what has it been for pressing? The other week I had a PR on the Nautilus, just flat press, with 4 plates. So strength is really, really picking up and being sustained, where in the past I've had these just random surges of strength where like I could have probably went in the gym and done that maybe once, but then consistently doing that every week, I couldn't do that. I could just do it here and there and it'd be like random as hell, feeling super extra strong that day. For some reason I could let it rip, and then it's like that wasn't sustained. But where now I'm really growing into this new size, I guess you could say, and new level of strength where I can just consistently hit some of these weights and, pick up some shit that, in the past I would have not even thought of, to be honest with you. So I'm happy to see all that, especially, in a prep, diets kicking up as far as, calories getting dropped and things like that. And I feel like I made, some of these strength progressions and rep progressions and things like that when the calories got dropped. So it's almost like I got just more insulin sensitive, and that helped with training performance and all that stuff the past couple weeks. So that's huge, man. That's huge. And that is just letting me know that, I am, going to be able to grow at the beginning of this prep. Hopefully, consistently through most of the prep. Obviously, towards the very end, when calories are super low, we're not able to train quite as hard. We're super dry, things like that. I understand you're not necessarily going to be able to progress all the way through that point. But I feel like you can keep strength pretty high, especially if you're aware of your refeeds and things like that, and just knowing when to dig and when to pull back. I feel like you can keep progressing for a pretty good amount of time through the prep, especially if it's ran right and it's not just a linear diet down, get as lean as you can, cut the calories all the way through, which nobody these days I think is really doing that unless you absolutely had to. But with all the tools that we have and with all the diet techniques and things like that, I genuinely don't think that is something that ever really needs to happen for any long period of time. And if anyone is doing that and is struggling to get in shape, to be honest with you, that is probably why. So yeah, man, that's where we're at with all that stuff. What else do we need to talk about? Oh, other thing I haven't really publicly spoke on yet online or anything like that. I made one post about it, but like a fucking absolute bonehead. Such a dumb move. But let's see, it was 4th of July weekend. My brother got a new wakeboard boat probably like a month and a half ago, right at the beginning of summer, basically. Brand new wakeboard boat. That makes the wakes and all that. You can surf behind it, like wake surf. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that, but that's basically like wakeboarding on a little, surfboard. You're literally on a mini surfboard. And you can ride. You don't have to be strapped in or anything. You can ride on the wake of the boat. I'm sure I'm explaining this to people that probably already know, but some people might not know. The boat makes a big enough wake that you can surf behind the boat without even holding the rope, without being strapped into the board, anything like that. You can just use the rope to tow yourself into the wake, let go, you're surfing. So my brother had a board rated for people 200 pounds. My youngest brother, the one that owns the boat, recently had an insane dirt bike crash. Totally wrecked his hip, got a rod put in his hip. He already had a metal rod in his femur from a previous dirt bike wrecked so hard that he bent that rod and re-broke his femur, probably 6 weeks before we were out on the boat. And he got up on the board, fresh out of surgery, still, doing physical therapy and things like that. He got up. So then my other brother, my middle brother, 6'7", almost 300 pounds, it takes him like 4 or 5 tries, but he gets up. Like he's got the, the coordination and all that. We all skateboarded as kids. We all, wakeboarded, we BMX'd. We were all extreme sports and athletes. Like that's what we did. We did all that. So it's second nature to ride a skateboard, to get up on a surfboard, to do all that shit. We've all been doing that since we were kids. So of course I see my brothers doing it. I'm like, oh my God, I definitely can do this. Like this is going to be the best fucking day ever. We're about to be wake surfing today. Like I haven't gotten to surf in forever, and especially not since I've gotten like this strong and just honestly, I thought athletic, but not as nimble as I thought that I still was. So I attempted this the very first try. I get up, I'm literally just raw dogging, basically raw strengthening myself out of the water, because I didn't have the technique down necessarily, but I had the strength to just lock on and hold on and basically force myself out of the water. So I'm riding this thing virtually with my back foot standing up, and I don't have weight on my front foot. Because you got to start with your feet sideways and basically use the water to stand up, and then you pivot your feet around. So I'm riding sideways, standing up out of the water. As soon as I go to pivot my feet around and plant my feet down, my front foot, boom, and basically the water catches my foot sideways and just totally folds my leg in sideways. So it's like, I'm sure you guys have seen in football a tackle from the side and their knee just totally caves in sideways. That's virtually what happened to my knee, but with, from the water. So here's my knee, here's the wave, but this is, obviously the side of my knee. The water just came and then my leg folded kind of, but this is sideways now. So I knew immediately, I felt like a pop. I was like, oh my God, I just blew my MCL out or something, or my meniscus. But everyone was like, no, you're fine, dude. You're fine. You're good. So I'm like, you know what? I'm probably okay. I probably just planted weird or something. So I, like a jackass, let me remind you guys, like an absolute jackass. I'm fucking 280 pound bodybuilder. No business doing this. Try it again. And same thing happens. Literally, stand up, I'm riding sideways, go to pivot, go down. I knew as soon as I started putting my foot down, I could feel the instability in my knee. So I bailed on the second one. I'm like, nah, something's wrong with my knee. Can't do it. They're like, dude, you got this. You were all the way up. Like, just stand up and you're there. And I'm like, you know what? They're right. If I could just literally just get my foot down a little, just enough, I could coast around. I don't even need like that much stability on my knee. I just need to get up on the water and get the board pivoted around. The whole problem with all this, mind you, is the board is not graded for people our weight. The board was made for somebody max 200 pounds. So the board is not actually enough surface area across the water to really carry someone, efficiently, I should say. Until you get up to speed and you're just perfectly balanced, then you're probably going to be okay. But one wrong move on that board, you're going down. So long story short, try it a third time, and I try to plant the third time again, blow my knee out again. So this whole prep basically is probably going to be done without either an MCL or a meniscus or a combination or a strain or a sprain of both or one or something. And the interesting thing here is, yes, I can't squat as heavy, but I can still squat to full depth. I can still use a respectable load to get the stimulus I need in the quads. The one issue I'm having though is actually like loading the hamstrings up. For some reason, when that knee gets loaded or the hamstring is loaded, it's putting the knee in the craziest, just most compromised feeling of a position, like it's gonna, kind of like it's gonna buckle or something. Granted, the first week was horrible. I didn't even train hams the first week, other than ham curls, and I was just going really light. But I didn't do any hinging movements or anything like that. But the second week, did some hinges, just lighter. And then this week, I was able to do some hinges. I was able to squat significantly heavier this week. I was able to do, I did pit shark RDLs, did some glute bridges and things like that. Not that that's a hinge, but that was one of the other movements as well that was kind of making it feel a little weird for some reason. But those movements seem to already be, I seem to be moving in the right direction. I've started doing some actual tendon and ligament strengthening, like warm-ups and things like that before I even train legs, and even just on off days with some banded stuff, just some hyperextension work and stuff like that with a band on your knee, on the back of your knee. Some Spanish squats where you're literally just banding the back of your leg, kind of getting it to pull the back of your leg. So you'll just anchor it down to something, get it to pull the back of your leg, literally sit in like a 90 degree, like almost like a wall sit, and you just sit there with all that tension, on the joint, really. So doing stuff like that already, I'm seeing a huge difference. So saying all that to say that's just another hurdle that has popped up in prep. It always seems like there's something that I kind of, not that it's ever anything major, but it's like something that's going on or that I'm prepping around or working around through a prep, whether it's a crazy schedule with a job or like the second show, it was like crazy digestive issues towards the end, like pretty bad too. Like I was doing crazy shit just to get my food down and combat some of the digestive issues. So that was crazy. But now it's this, and it's just another thing. I won't even call it a problem or anything like that. It's just another part of the prep. It's just something else to be more mindful of. And in my opinion, it's already made me just be that much, like I said, be more mindful. So it's made me that much more mindful of my training already, and especially in a department where, I needed to really improve. And that's kind of already what I had to do to make improvements in my legs anyways, was scale the training back as far as just load I was using. I've always been strong in my legs, but where are you putting that load at? So getting, the right areas of my legs to actually be taking the load required scaling back, on the weights and things like that. So that just kind of made me redo that going into this prep, really slow down a bit as far as with progressing the weights, and just pull it back and figure out, how can I make this a little bit lighter weight that I know is safe for my knee right at the moment? How can I make this harder? How can I get more out of this? How can I wreck my quads with 20 reps on this set and then do it for 4 sets? Think about it that way. I only have 20 reps with this weight to fail, or I only have 10 reps with this weight to fail. Let me make sure that I fail in those 10 reps. Or, thinking about it that way versus, I got 3 sets here. I'm gonna sandbag this first one. No, you got 3 sets there, but you need to figure out how to destroy yourself with every rep of every set. Really, you're trying to create the maximal damage. Because you're not using as heavy of a load. So you got to make sure you're getting maximal recruitment by using mind-muscle connection, using tempo, using all these other tools that we have to, overload the quads, overload the hamstrings when they're mainly the hamstrings, but when they're compromised right now. So it's been interesting, man. And it's just, like I said, it's always something, and it just makes you better at the end of the day. It's just something to persevere from, or, through and over, and something to work around. And to be honest, it's nothing. It's just another day in the office. It's another little niggle that you got to, work through, and you come out on the other side better every time, because you revamp your training, you figure out how to work around it, what you need to do to adapt, things like that. So that's where we're at with that on the training and stuff like that, guys. Let's see. Did I talk about the food? Let's see. My food. So carbs right now are at 500 on training days. Rest days are 250. Fats are at 40 grams roughly. Honestly, some of the days have been a little bit less when I'm doing more more chicken breasts, less turkey. Mainly doing more chicken breasts on my training days. It just goes, I feel like I can get those meals in and through a lot quicker. Where I do the 93.7 turkey, mainly on the rest days, get a little bit more fats. The carbs are a little lower. So training days are usually just inevitably a little bit less fat, less added fats, I'll say. But I kind of like it that way, because that's how I can get my body to kind of pick speed up as far as metabolically. When I start throwing too many fats in every meal and stuff, everything just kind of bogs down, and I don't feel as good. I don't feel as streamlined. I feel like there's always something in my stomach. That is not how I like to feel. I'd rather feel hungry, to be honest, and empty, stomach, especially while I'm training. I don't want to feel full in the gym or anything like that. So that's been fine so far. Diet has been smooth. Haven't had to make any other reductions, and the look is tightening up. Cardio's at 20 minutes 4 times a week. Steps are at 8,000 steps. So nothing crazy there. There's no stims in right now. Test is at, I think I went over that already, so I'm not going to go over that again, because I don't want to make this all about that. But yeah, man, we are just basically putting our blinders on and focused on my process, not letting any outside influences, impact what is going on as far as how I'm training, what I'm doing. I don't give a flying fuck what any science says, or what this study said, or what this person's split is now, or what this person's cycle is now. Don't give a shit. That has been, something that has hindered me in the past, even in this past year. So I've refused to allow that to happen, and I'm really good about not allowing any of that to enter my zone, especially in prep. We're in the off season. I kind of got a little curious, what's this person doing? What's that person doing? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Let me try this. Let me try that. just not a good place to be, guys. Don't even worry about what anyone else is doing. Run your race. Do what you know works for you. And, again, run your race. Track your data. Log your workouts. Progress your logbook. Do your meal plan. Run your cycle. Run what works for you. That is like the big, huge caveat here. What works for me is not going to work for you. It's not going to work for him. It's not going to work for them. So you just got to kind of figure it out, and figure out what works best for you. Yes, there are guidelines that pretty much everyone's going to fall under. Test is best, obviously. How much do you need, though? Where do you need to be at? And, in the past, I've thought, I don't need that much. I'm somebody that doesn't need to use that much test. Now I'm realizing, no, I didn't need a lot of the other stuff. You could have just used way more tests, and gotten the job done. Felt a lot better the whole time. Been way fuller, looked way better. So in the past, I've thought, I just need a lot of anabolics. I don't really need that much tests. And then you're, forcing this look and feeling horrible because you're using barely any tests when you could have, got the job done using a little more tests. That's my thing there. Not to make it all about that again, but, what I did this go around was just scaled the test up to where I felt, good, even if I had to use a little bit of an AI, and then I layered in, the other things from that point, where in the past I've kind of been like, just preemptively said, I can only use, probably around this much. I already had it in my head, like I can't use that much. I'm only going to be able to use this much, and then I'm going to have to add this in on top of it. Guys, you gotta just find out for yourself and figure it out. And that is, something that I had to do because, I was a little concerned about what I was actually able to use and get away with this go round. Because I just ran into some issues, like I said, in this past off season with, blood pressure and all that good stuff. So kind of wanted to figure all that out ahead of time, and I did. And that is exactly what I found out. The best way to go about that is run as much testosterone as you possibly can, and you can handle and manage. Like I said, even if you need to use a bit of an AI, and that's just me keeping it real. Other people are going to say, you just use what you can, maximally tolerate from aromatization or whatever. Horseshit. If you're trying to be an open pro, you're gonna have to, use an AI if you got to use a little more tests. And your body is not allowing you to use that much test, but run that much test without converting as much estrogen. You need a little bit of an AI. Better to run that AI than to let your estrogen run through the roof, in my opinion. So I'm gonna use that AI, and feel great, like I said, and then just layer in the anabolics from that point. And I'm telling you, that has worked so much better for me this go around, as far as just feeling good, being super strong, progressing from a strength perspective. The look will always progress, but really seeing the performance side of things progress, truly has came from approaching it a little bit differently, and that being the main difference this past year. Where in the past, the look has been great and stuff like that, but I might not been nearly as strong, or been able to sustain strength through a prep, things like that. I would have already been seeing, declines in strength immediately, where now I'm just seeing strength go up and consistently go up, where in the past it'd be like, if I'm not super blasting full from the food, I would almost be going flat, immediately from literally just not having enough testosterone to keep you full. So then you're going flat, and your training really takes a dive. Again, not to make it all about that, but that has been, a huge difference this year for me, guys. Especially, like I said, just feeling so much better, not feeling like a bag of dog shit at 16 weeks out already, because your cycle's just set up oddly. So that has been huge. Guys, appreciate you guys for always keeping up with me, following, staying in touch, tagging along. I plan on, keeping these really consistent. Like I said, that is the name of the game. Consistency across the board. Consistency in your bodybuilding journey, in what you're doing with your training, your nutrition, your PEDs, everything. Keeping that all consistent. And then, that also needs to translate over to this side of things as well, to be productive on the social media side, all that good stuff. But I kind of had to just take a step back, re-hone in and really focus on, what makes me the athlete that I am, and what I feel makes me super productive in bodybuilding and brings the best out of me. And I just kind of had to do some soul searching, to be honest, guys. So I kind of stepped away from being so focused on making videos and just putting myself out there so much, because I felt like, hey, you really don't need to be saying anything right now. You got some work to do. So I felt like I just kind of had to put my head down, get a bunch of work done as far as physique-wise, progression-wise, get the ball rolling in the right direction, get, all my ducks lined up mentally, and get my whole process, moving and grooving in a respectable way, before I'm just sitting on here, talking away. Because again, guys, I just felt like I had a lot of work to do. So me getting online and talking and stuff like that, I just almost felt like I was kind of being like a hypocrite in a way, because it's like, man, you got a lot of work to do as far as getting condition and stuff. I knew I had an off season that I had to push, had biggest I've ever been, things like that. But like I've explained in the past, that kind of weighed in on my mental, and I just felt like, bro, you're almost had like imposter syndrome for a second. I'm like, you're calling yourself a bodybuilder, and look how fucking out of shape you are right now. Where that really was fucking with me, man. Even though I did what I know I had to do, when I started going the other direction and wasn't looking good, and everything comes out and you look like a bag of dicks, I was just like, man, you can't be online even saying anything right now. You don't look at how you're looking. So it's interesting, man, for sure. It's an interesting game, and it's a learning game, and I'm not gonna sit here and claim to be the expert. I've got a lot to learn myself. And, I plan on continuing to just be a student of the game, learning from the best of the best that I possibly can. Anyone that anyone, you can learn from anyone, and anyone that is, willing to teach and willing to extend that time, I'm always willing to learn. So, if we all want to be our best, that's what we all ultimately got to do, is just consistently keep learning, keep progressing, keep pushing the envelope to move forward. Guys, again, appreciate all of you for keeping up with me, staying in touch. Like, comment, subscribe, share, ring the bell, all the good stuff, man. Appreciate all the support. Much love, and there will be many more of these to come. Podcasts will be coming. I don't know any specific dates, but I know I will be, getting the boys on my channel, getting some other people on here and stuff like that. Anyone that wants to hop on, I'll be networking a bit and things like that. Through this prep and stuff, just getting different perspectives on my channel, things like that. So much love to you guys. Appreciate all of you. Peace.